The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame. Shadow boxes come with a lifetime guarantee.
This is The Sports Source, presented by Bill Hotz and Associates, and by Renewal by Anderson, with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you with us. We have a packed show. Lots coming out of SEC Media Days this week. We're going to talk about Jeremy Pruitt. We're going to talk about what other people said about Jeremy Pruitt. We're going to talk about what Jeremy Pruitt said about those people who said things about Jeremy Pruitt. Should be fun. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's get right into it. First segment of this program brought to you by our friends at Bill Hotz and Associates. Time and again, Tennessee fans have looked for a coach they could trust. Time and again, they've been disappointed. But for more than 30 years, East Tennesseans have trusted, turned to, and been successfully aided by Bill Hotz and Associates. That's someone you can trust. If you have been injured by a careless driver in an accident, do the smart thing. Call Bill Hotz and Associates. These guys will help you out. They have helped others for 30-something years. Bill Hotz and Associates. These guys have helped me for going on 16 years. Well, not you. You were probably 10 when we launched. Jimmy Himes right here. Appreciate you joining us back from Atlanta. Ryan Callahan right there, who I think I spoke at one of your classes when you were at UT, right?
That's true, yeah.
And you still went into the business. And right there we got Chuck Cavaleris. Gentlemen, thanks. Three-man panel. We're going to do this. We got so much to cover. Let's just dive right in with this thing. Last week I asked on the program if we thought Jeremy Pruitt would do the Knoxville media thing, which is going to keep it closed-lipped, not say a lot, not divulge a lot. That was kind of the take. Most of us expected him. He wouldn't say much, didn't want to be there. Or would he do the open mouth, very forthcoming kind of guy that he's done sometimes outside of Knoxville with the media? He was much more open than I anticipated. Your thoughts? He talked about Trey Smith. He talked about J.J. Peterson. Actually said he thinks Peterson's going to be back. Gave some, or make it in on time. Gave some positive remarks about Trey Smith. We'll get into all those a little bit later. But on the whole, the fact that he was even talking about things was better than we've sometimes gotten locally. Your thoughts on how he did at his first media days?
John, I thought he did a really good job. I thought it's the best I've seen him in a press conference setting since he was Tennessee's coach. Better than as an opening press conference, better than any press conferences that he had post-practice at Tennessee or the spring game. I thought he was composed. I thought he was confident. I thought he was poised. I thought he gave a nice answer when asked about the Aaron Murray situation. I just thought he did a really nice job, and I thought he came across real well.
You guys, were you a little surprised that I know you thought he would go in like I did and be kind of mum. Were you surprised that he was as forthcoming as he was?
I am, and especially on the Trey Smith situation, that's the thing. I mean, to even refer to it as a condition at one point, I thought was rather open about it and not something he had to say. So, yeah, I thought he was more open than I would have imagined he would be. And I think it's something we've seen from him before, though, like you said, and especially out of town. But even toward the end of spring practice, he opened up a little bit more. So maybe we should have seen it coming, but I was still a little surprised, especially getting close to the season. You're trying to button things up, be a little more tight-lipped about your team. To see him open up like that, it was unexpected, but a welcome change.
Yeah, made me wonder a little bit if there'd been any show prep. You know, did he
do
anything to kind of get ready for this? Because he came across so well, it sure looked that way. And it was almost like he was just talking to the person who asked the question. And that's one of the keys, I think, to that, because you're in a room full of people. But if you're relaxed and comfortable and you embrace it, I think Jeremy Pruitt realized that he's competing with other SEC coaches. You know, you're kind of ranking who does well, and it's a recruiting tool. You know somebody's mama and daddy and some player are watching this. So I thought he knocked it out of the park.
I agree with you. I thought the same thing. I wonder if they'd done anything with him because, for one thing, we know how many times he said "aight" at his opening press conference, which was endearing to a lot of Tennessee fans. They liked it. Southern, okay, cool. But he didn't say it at the time when he got down there, which tells me that someone had worked with. Now, he has admitted that he's going to get better at this. He said he wasn't completely comfortable off the top doing that kind of thing. But I thought from opening day until this, his opening press conference to this, I thought was a big change. He also came in, Jimmy, and this trick has started the last few years, where these guys have figured out, I've only got to be in the room for X amount of time. If I start out with a 10 or 12-minute soliloquy, that gives them less time to ask me questions. He went for 10 and a half minutes in the main room.
Right.
What was the reaction from other media down there to Jeremy Pruitt?
I thought the reaction was they came away impressed. I think they felt like he was forthcoming with his answers. He was honest with his answers. I will say this, when he was at Sandestin for the spring meetings there, that wasn't one of his better moments. I didn't think. But I thought he did a really good job, and the other media talked about that as well, that he answered all the questions. He was pretty direct. He gave good answers. And so I think the other media was impressed with the way Pruitt handled himself.
There probably had been some show prep, if I had to guess. You know, it's on some level. I'm not sure to what extent, but I do think that's possible. He knows it's important to show a good front, but this is also, when he gets one-on-one, like Chuck is saying, you know, when he handles it just like a person talking to another person, he's very good in that setting. I think he showed when he's comfortable, when he's willing to open up, he can be very direct and in a way people like.
And I think that hits on something else. I think he benefited from the fact that he's replacing Butch Jones. And I think everyone down there, especially by year 5, people had grown tired. And as the heat had ramped up on Jones, even after they're 9-4, that second 9-4, when people are upset, he started spinning more than he'd even done from the start. And it became more slogans and more spin. And I think most of the media down there, just from reading the tweets and everything, wow, this is impressive. It's a big change. Wow, this is a big difference. I think he benefited from who he replaced.
That's true, too. And thank goodness there weren't any more leadership reps.
No leadership reps. I thought and you didn't have any stumbles like that.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we talked about it last Sunday. Josh specifically mentioned Mike Bianchi. We could picture someone maybe catching his countrified way of talking and poking a little fun. But he didn't give him anything, which goes back to the prep. But I thought he benefited from, clearly he has gotten better over time, but also I think it was refreshing for a lot of people down there not to hear somebody talk about, you know, it's 321, 460 all the time. You know, we got to give them DAT. There's no silly slogan coming out.
You knew by the end of Butch Jones' opening statement what his talking points were going to be for SEC Media Days. You didn't have that this time. Another thing Chuck hit on that was a good point, I think, talking about it being a recruiting opportunity. He mentioned some cities that he'd been to, talking about how far the T reaches. He mentioned some cities that were key targets or represented key targets of Tennessee: Charlotte, Quavaris Crouch, Huntington, West Virginia, Darnell Wright, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Chris Bogle, a top 100 player, defensive end and linebacker. So definitely worth noting he looked at it as a recruiting
opportunity. And he mentioned putting on the schedule one of those high school teams.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll show that as well. When we come back, we do have a lot to cover. I'm sure you've heard by now about the Aaron Murray, David Pollock stuff back and forth, and Mark Richt and what Nick Saban said. We're just going to wrap all of that up in one big blob. In case you haven't heard all of it and you missed some of these statements, we'll run through them. And then the segment after that, these guys are going to react to it. We'll see what their take is. Come on back on the Sports Source as we talk about the first, real criticism from outside of the Jeremy Pruitt era. We'll see how real it is. Come on back.